Buxton Corpse CEO got his ex back. The cost? His pregnant wife vanished without a word. Month 1, Calvin didn't flinch. Too busy worshipping his so-called true love. Month 2, his buddies placed bets on when Angela would come crawling home. Month 3, panic hit. Sent scouts everywhere to find me. Nothing. Not a whisper. After that, Angela Astor turned into a curse word in Orenburg. But what no one saw. He missed her so bad at night and nearly broke him. Orenburg? Carmoria. The Buxtons had this stuck-up tradition. Some fancy end-of-year bash where outsiders weren't welcome. Except this time someone didn't get the memo. Enter Gianna Payne, Calvin Buxton's ex. His one true love. They strolled in late, dinner already in full swing. Alvin had one arm around her and guess where they headed? Straight to me. I looked at his smug face and my eyes started to burn. He was the only guy I'd ever loved. And I still hadn't made it past the velvet ropes into his heart. Get up. That's not your seat. No shame, no hesitation. Just straight up humiliation in front of everyone. And yeah, he was right. That chair wasn't mine. It belonged to Mrs. Buxton. Legally, that was me. Emotionally, I might as well have been a ghost. Now that his precious Gianna had slithered back into Carmoria, I was supposed to just vanish? Every pair of eyes in that room turned into knives. I couldn't move, couldn't speak. Years of swallowing this kind of crap had left me numb. Right as I started to stand, Calvin pulled out a bank card. And dropped it like he was tipping a waitress. Is this enough? Gasps and whispers shot across the table like sparks off a short fuse. 3 years in, and this wasn't even the first time he tried to slap a price tag on my pride. CEO of Heartless Transactions. That's Calvin Buxton for you. When I didn't react, he blinked like I glitched his system. We've been married 3 years. You're not raising your price now, are you? Boom. One sentence, instant pride killer. I dropped my gaze, about to say something, then Gianna beat me to it. Calvin, it's a family event. Don't start drama. She cooed. Then, like she was doing charity, she slid her bracelet into my hand. He gave me this for my birthday. It's second-hand now, but you might like it. I forced a smile, about to pass it back, but she clutched my hand and went in for the kill. She pointed at my ring and giggled. That ring. Calvin gave me that too. I told him it was hideous and to toss it. Didn't think someone would actually wear it. Guess you're giving it a second life. Silence. Thick, choking silence. I didn't need to look up to feel the stares. Gossip, smirking amusement. I didn't want anyone's pity. My nails cut into my palm. As I yanked the ring off and set it on the table. I turned to leave. Calvin's voice stopped me. Wait, don't forget the card. And, just like that, I heard it. The sound of my heart cracking. Fine, Calvin. I forgot to mention I'm pregnant. And this baby. They'll never know a man like you back home. I stuffed the pregnancy test results behind a stack of sweaters in the closet. I'd planned to surprise Calvin. Well, mission accomplished. He beat me to it. Perfect. At the bitter end, we finally synced up. Mutual disappointment. Check. I had just closed the closet when the front door creaked open downstairs. Gianna's voice floated in first. Then came the click of her heels. She latched onto Calvin's arm like she owned him. Honestly, she looked more like the lady of the house than I ever did. Calvin spotted me and raised a brow. Gianna doesn't have a place to stay in Carmoria. She'll be living with us for a few days. All right. Didn't bother asking why. Out of all his mansions and penthouses, this was the only option. Asking would have just made me look pathetic. I kept my voice low. Should I move out? Save you the hassle. He frowned, clearly not loving the optics. No need. Just give up the master bedroom. Okay. No fight, no drama. I just turned and started packing. Guest room it was. As we passed each other in the hallway, Jonah dialed up her voice. Calvin, you know I'm a clean freak. Have the housekeeper disinfect the room. I can't deal with dirty spaces. My steps froze mid-stride. I looked at Calvin. No way he missed what she really meant. Of course he didn't. He just didn't care. It's too late tonight. I'll take you to a hotel. Come back tomorrow after it's cleaned. Gianna giggled and launched herself into his arms, tossing me a smug little glance over his shoulder. Fine. But you have to stay with me. I'll be scared alone. Calvin didn't even blink, took her downstairs and walked out the door. And there I was, standing alone, with a half-zipped suitcase and a stomach full of regret. What a joke. I glanced down. The mark from my wedding ring still ghosted my finger. 3 years of lies, I told myself. 3 years of pretending I mattered. At 11 p.m., I finalized the divorce agreement with my lawyer. Outside the window, the rain finally started to fall. Gianna's social feed lit up with a fresh post. Her and Calvin curled up on a hotel bed. She was all dolled up, smiling like she just won the lottery. Caption side by side with hearts beating as one. Yeah, I'd had that kind of embrace once too. 6 months ago, right after my mom's funeral 3 years back. I married Calvin for the money. just enough to cover her medical bills. I knew he didn't love me. Still, sold every last shred of dignity I had. Didn't matter. All that cash couldn't save her. That night, with the rain drowning Ehrenberg, I sat in the dark, clutching her old clothes, crying so quietly it hurt. Calvin walked in. Didn't say a word. He just pulled me onto the bed and held me all night. When my mom left this world, when I had absolutely no one left, gave me that one single moment of comfort. And for a split second, I believed I had a home again. Really thought I'd made it. I was so close. Swallowing the lump in my throat, I hit like her post. Set the phone down, closed my eyes, tried to forget. 10 minutes later, my screen lit up with a pinned message. Still awake, I sat up when I heard the ding. More messages followed. Kelvin. Of course. I saw Gianna's post. Don't overthink it. I was only with her for a bit. Then came the e-wallet transfer. His favorite move. By peace, by silence, by me. Since Mom died, I'd stopped taking his money unless he pushed. Usually took a couple nudges before I gave in. But this time, I accepted it without flinching. Thank you, Mr. Buxton. Phone rang instantly. He sounded thrown off. Why'd you take it so fast this time? Before I could answer, Gianna, syrupy voice cut in with a giggle. Miss Astor, since you're still up, could you bring us a bowl of saffron milk soup to the hotel? She kept going. Kelvin said, you're really good at it. You don't mind letting me try, do you? I was ready to shut it down hard when another transfer lit up my screen. Kelvin, note for your trouble. Nice. The kind of tip they usually toss to a maid. Guess I'd officially been downgraded. Mrs. Buxton now playing the help. I let out a dry laugh, hung up, and accepted the cash. Divorce was coming anyway. Might as well get paid while I still had the title. By the time I got to the hotel with the soup, it was 2 a.m. The suite door was cracked open, like they'd been expecting me. I stepped onto the plush carpet, and there it was. Gianna's voice floating out. Kelvin, I heard that when Miss Astor's mom died, you held her on the bed all night. Is that true? Did you fall in love with her? I froze, barely breathed. I'd already made up my mind to leave. Didn't stop my heart from pounding like a drumline. That night came rushing back. The storm, the silence. The way I let myself believe I'd found love. Kelvin, do you even remember? Inside, he was by the window, staring out at the rain, lost in it, just like he was that night 6 months ago. Gianna nudged him, all whiny and impatient. Kelvin, you still haven't answered me. He blinked, snapping back. His voice was calm, but it hit like a slap. No. I just felt sorry for her, like I would for a stray cat or dog. That's all. Crash. The container slipped from my hands. Soup everywhere. All eyes turned. Kelvin stepped out first, freezing when he saw me. You? When did you get here? I didn't answer. Just melted down and started cleaning. Kelvin frowned and crouched next to me, reached out to help. I flinched without thinking, pulled back. His hand froze midair, then dropped like nothing happened. But Gianna saw. Of course she did. Her eyes lit up with that petty flash of jealousy. She grabbed her designer bag, pulled, got a bill, and dangled it in front of me. Miss Astor, thanks for your trouble. Here's your delivery fee. That bill didn't just float down. It hit my pride like a slap. I swallowed every bit of pride just to keep her alive. Now that she was gone, the humiliation stayed exactly the same. I gave a bitter little smile. Thanks. Took the money, turned to leave. Kelvin grabbed my wrist, his voice sharp. You're not angry at all? My eyes flickered. Angry at what? Or maybe the better question, do I even get to be? To him, I was just a stray he felt like rescuing. A project, a pity case. When he felt generous, he kept me. When he didn't, I was disposable. I should go. It's late. Knowing my place never bought me kindness. Kelvin blocked the door, eyes shadowed. You didn't used to be like this. And you didn't used to just stand there while people bullied me. 2 years ago, one of his cousins called me cheap trash in public. Kelvin kicked him out of the company, banned him from ever showing his face around me. A year ago, someone shoved me into a pool at a business event. Kelvin jumped in after him, held the guy underwater till security pulled them apart. He never loved me, but back then, at least he protected me. He remembered, too. His hand clenched awkwardly at his side. But I was done rewinding the tape. Gave them both a polite smile and walked out. I was just about to cross the threshold when Kelvin's voice stopped me cold. I know you went to the hospital. You know? I asked. He gave a low then hesitated. Someone saw you there. Are you okay? I froze, caught off guard. He goes, your mom's doctor still in Carmoria? I can call him if you need. Oh, so that's it? He thought I was sick. He had no clue I was pregnant. My lashes fluttered, but weirdly, I felt calm. Like, seriously, now he cared. Except this time, I wasn't some stray. I was the family dog. Sick, and suddenly the owner remembers I exist. Shot him a bitter smile, then side-eyed Gianna. Her fake smile was holding on by a thread. Just dropped in for a checkup, I said. Then I dipped before Calvin could play Dr. Detective. The next morning, I packed up to leave, stepped out, and boom. Ran into the housekeeper mid-sweep. She didn't even blink, like she'd marked it on her calendar. Wouldn't be shocked if the whole house had bets on how long I'd last. Calvin never hid the fact that I was just Gianna 2.0. I walked into the yard, trying not to feel anything. Then chaos exploded from the second-floor balcony. Stuff came flying down, one thing after another. I looked up. Master bedroom, the one I'd called home for 3 years. Bed sheets, water, glasses, pillows. Everything I'd left behind getting yeeted like trash. A whole vibe. Thanks for playing. Don't come back. Then came the grand finale. Our wedding photo. There I was, standing all stiff next to Calvin, smiling like I didn't know better. That girl. Total stranger now. The frame hit the ground and shattered. Glass everywhere. I took a breath, stepped right over the mess, and kept walking. Last night's rain had passed. So had mine. Calvin and Gianna didn't drag themselves home until late afternoon. The mansion sparkled like a cleaning commercial, and Gianna gave a smug little nod, clearly impressed by her own orders being followed. Calvin, he wasn't celebrating. He'd spent the whole morning trying to call Angela. Zero luck. That big speech he'd rehearsed 100 times still stuck in his throat. Just as he reached for his phone again, the housekeeper floated downstairs. Miss Payne, she beamed. The place is spotless. Master bedroom, too. Tossed all that woman's stuff and scrubbed it clean. Oh, but there was this file in the closet. She fished out a folder from her apron and handed it over. Calvin ditched his phone and grabbed it. A notebook slipped out. Pregnancy prep notes. He froze. Brain went straight to that rainy night. Angela crying in his arms, whispering that she had no one left. And him. God, he'd actually kissed her forehead and said, let's have a baby. Then you'll have family. She believed him. Went to doctors, studied up. Bit by bit. She let her guard down. His lips twitched. That stupid, soft smile sneaking out. Then he hit the last page. Folded inside. Folded inside was a single sheet of paper. The pregnancy test. Positive. For a full 3 seconds, Calvin didn't move. Then the folder slipped from his hands. No. His voice cracked. He snatched the paper back up, reading it over and over as if the words might magically rearrange themselves. Expected mother, Angela Astor. Estimated pregnancy, 8 weeks. His breathing turned ragged. The hospital. That was why she'd gone. She wasn't sick. She'd been carrying his child. Angela. Across the room, Gianna leaned over. What is it? Calvin jerked the paper away before she could touch it. When did you find this? The housekeeper blinked. In Miss Astor's closet, sir. When? This afternoon. His face drained of color. He remembered every conversation from the last 2 days. Should I move out? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Buxton. Just dropped in for a checkup. She had given him chance after chance. He had never asked. His fingers trembled as he flipped through the notebook. Every page was filled with neat handwriting. Foods babies should avoid. Weekly fetal development. Baby names. Little reminders. Tell Calvin after 12 weeks. He'll be happy. I think. The words stabbed straight through him. Gianna laughed awkwardly. So, she's pregnant. No one answered. She forced another smile. It might not even be yours. The room instantly turned cold. Calvin slowly looked at her. His eyes had never been so frightening. Say that again. Gianna froze. I didn't mean. You just accused my wife of cheating. His voice was terrifyingly calm. Get out. She blinked. What? I said. He pointed toward the front door. Get out. Calvin. Now. She had never seen him like this. Not once. The same man who indulged every whim. Didn't even spare her another glance. The housekeeper quietly opened the front door. Gianna stood there, completely stunned. You're throwing me out because of her? No. He looked down at the notebook. I'm throwing you out because I finally realized who I've been hurting. The door shut behind her. Silence. Calvin immediately grabbed his phone. 1 missed call. 10 unanswered messages. 100 attempts later. The number you have dialed has been blocked. His chest tightened. He called his assistant. Find Angela. Sir, I don't care how. Check airports, train stations, bus terminals, every hospital. I want an answer today. Yes, President Buxton. 3 days later. Nothing. 1 week. Nothing. 2 weeks. Nothing. Angela Astor had vanished. It was as if she'd never existed. The entire Buxton Corporation entered panic mode. Employees whispered whenever Calvin walked past. The CEO barely slept. Barely ate. He spent every night sitting in the nursery catalog Angela had bookmarked online. Every tiny crib. Every stroller. every baby blanket. He bought them all. The empty nursery slowly filled with unopened gifts. But there was still no mother. No baby. Meanwhile, nearly 1,000 miles away, in the coastal city of West Haven, I stepped out of a taxi and looked up at a quiet white villa. A smiling older woman opened the door. Miss Astor. Yes, I'm Dr. Eleanor Hart. She smiled warmly. Welcome. You and your baby are safe here. For the first time in years, someone welcomed me home. Not because I was someone's wife. Not because of money. Not because they pitied me. Just because I was me. I rested a hand over my stomach. We made it. The tiny life inside me couldn't answer. But somehow, I didn't feel alone anymore. Far away in Carmoria, Calvin Buxton stared at the empty side of his bed every night. Only now did he understand something painfully simple. He had spent 3 years chasing the woman he thought he loved, only to lose the one who had quietly loved him every single day. And by the time he realized it, his wife and his unborn child were already far beyond his reach. 6 months later, winter settled over Carmoria. The Buxton mansion was quieter than a cemetery. No laughter. No visitors. No Gianna. The master bedroom remained exactly as Angela had left it. Calvin refused to let anyone touch it. Her mug still sat beside the bed. A cardigan still hung behind the bedroom door. Even the tiny cactus she'd bought from a street vendor was watered every Monday. Everyone in the house knew one rule. Nothing belonging to Mrs. Buxton was to be moved. Not a single inch. His assistant rushed into the office one morning. President Buxton. Calvin looked up immediately. Did you find her? The assistant's hopeful expression vanished. No. Calvin looked back down. Then what is it? We found Miss Payne. Calvin's expression didn't change. I didn't ask you to. She keeps telling reporters you're getting back together. Should we issue a statement? Calvin signed another document without looking up. Tell legal to sue. The assistant froze. Sir, for defamation. And make it public. Yes, sir. Within hours, every entertainment headline in Carmoria exploded. Buxton Corporation denies relationship with Gianna Payne. CEO files lawsuit against ex-girlfriend. Gianna called him 17 times. He blocked every number. Thousands of miles away. West Haven. I was 7 months pregnant. My stomach had become impossible to hide. Dr. Hart smiled after another ultrasound. The baby's healthy. I smiled back. Boy or girl? She laughed. Still wanted to be a surprise? I nodded. Then yes. We both laughed. It was the first genuine laugh I'd had in months. That afternoon I stopped by a little bookstore. A little girl bumped into my leg. I'm sorry. She stared at my belly. Is there a baby in there? There is. She gasped dramatically. Can I say hi? I crouched with a smile. You can. The little girl leaned forward. Hello, baby. You have a really pretty mommy. My eyes suddenly stung. Thank you. Children never lied. Maybe I wasn't as broken as I'd convinced myself. Back in Carmoria, Calvin finally found another clue. His private investigator placed a thin folder on the desk. We tracked Mrs. Buxton's passport. Calvin shot to his feet. Where? It was used 6 months ago. His heartbeat quickened. Tell me. One-way flight. Destination. West Haven. For the first time in months, hope appeared in Calvin's eyes. Book the plane. The investigator hesitated. Sir. What? We're too late. What do you mean? She renewed her residency there. She rented a house. She closed all her bank accounts here. Anne. He swallowed. She filed for divorce. Calvin slowly opened the envelope. Inside was a certified copy. Angela's signature sat neatly at the bottom. She hadn't hesitated. She hadn't crossed it out. She hadn't left room for negotiation. She had truly chosen to leave him. His knees nearly gave out. That night, he sat alone in the nursery. The tiny crib stood in the corner. A stuffed rabbit rested inside. He picked it up absent-mindedly. I found you too late. His voice echoed through the empty room. I didn't even know. My child. A tear landed on the rabbit's ear. It was the first time anyone had ever seen Calvin Buxton cry. Not for his company. Not for losing billions. Not for Gianna. But for the wife who had stopped waiting. And for the baby who might be born before he ever got the chance to say, I'm your father. Far away in West Haven, as snow began to fall outside my window, the baby suddenly kicked hard enough to make me laugh. I rubbed my belly. Someone's energetic today. A soft smile spread across my face. Don't worry. You already have me. Unaware of the promise being made across the ocean, Calvin boarded the first flight to West Haven, determined to find them no matter how long it took. 20 hours later, Calvin stepped off the plane looking nothing like the polished CEO the business magazines loved. His tie was gone. His beard had grown in. He hadn't slept. His assistant handed him another folder. Sir, this is the address. Calvin grabbed it and got into the car. Go. West Haven. I had just finished folding tiny baby clothes when the doorbell rang. Dr. Hart looked through the security camera. A man is asking for you. I walked over. The screen showed a familiar face. Calvin. For a moment, the room was silent. Dr. Hart looked at me. Do you know him? I do. Do you want to see him? I looked down at my stomach. The baby shifted gently. After a long pause. No. Dr. Hart nodded. I'll handle it. The front door opened. Calvin immediately straightened. I'm here to see Angela. Dr. Hart smiled politely. She isn't accepting visitors. I just need 5 minutes. I'm sorry. I came a long way. So did she. Those 4 words hit him like a brick. He looked toward the house. I know she's here. Dr. Hart didn't deny it. She asked not to see you. His jaw tightened. Please. Just tell her. His voice became hoarse. I know about the baby. Behind the curtains, my fingers tightened around the fabric. So, he knew. Dr. Hart glanced back at me. I slowly shook my head. She understood immediately. Turning back, she said gently. My answer is still no. The door closed. Calvin stood there for a long time. He didn't knock again. He simply sat down on the front steps. 1 hour. 2 hours. 5 hours. Rain began to fall. Dr. Hart sighed. He's still outside. I looked through the upstairs window. Calvin hadn't moved. His expensive suit was soaked. Water dripped from his hair. Even so, he kept looking at the front door, as if waiting for a miracle. Night fell. Dr. Hart finally carried an umbrella outside. Mr. Buxton. He looked up. You'll get sick. I'll leave after she sees me. Dr. Hart handed him an envelope. She asked me to give you this. His hands trembled as he opened it. Inside was only 1 sheet of paper. In my handwriting. Calvin. Thank you for coming. But you've come too late. When I needed you, you chose someone else. When I wanted to tell you about our baby, you gave away our bedroom. When I cried outside your hotel room, you compared me to a stray animal. You ask for another chance now because you know about the child. But I needed a husband long before I needed a father for my baby. I don't hate you anymore. I simply don't love you anymore. Please don't look for us again. I hope you'll live a happy life. Angela. The paper blurred. A drop landed on the ink. Then another. And another. Calvin stared at the page before realizing. He wasn't standing in the rain anymore. Those drops were his tears. The next morning, he was still outside. Dr. Hart frowned. He hasn't left. I sighed. I'll go. She looked surprised. Are you sure? I'm not doing this for him. I rested a hand on my belly. I'm doing it so this chapter can finally end. The front door opened. Calvin immediately stood. The moment he saw me, his eyes turned red. Then they dropped to my stomach. My pregnancy was unmistakable now. His lips parted. Our baby. He took 1 unconscious step forward. I instinctively stepped back. That single movement stopped him cold. He lowered his hand. I'm sorry. His voice cracked. I know that isn't enough. It isn't, I answered quietly. He nodded. I know. Silence stretched between us. Finally, he whispered. Can I at least know if it's a boy or a girl? I shook my head. I don't know. I wanted it to be a surprise. A faint, bittersweet smile crossed his face. You always liked surprises. I said nothing. After another long silence, he reached into his coat pocket. He pulled out the wedding ring I'd left behind. I kept it. I looked at it once. Then back at him. You can throw it away. His fingers slowly closed around the ring. I can't. You'll have to learn. Those words left him speechless. He finally understood. The woman standing before him wasn't the Angela who silently endured every humiliation. She had become someone who could walk away without looking back. Calvin took a shaky breath. I won't force you to forgive me. I don't deserve that. He looked at my stomach one last time. Please. When our child is old enough. If they ever ask about me, don't lie. Tell them. I love them. I met his eyes calmly. I will tell them the truth. He nodded. For the first time since arriving, he turned around. Each step away from the house felt heavier than the last. He never looked back. Because he knew. If he did, he might never find the strength to leave again. 3 months later, on a quiet spring morning, my labor began. After 12 long hours, a loud cry echoed through the delivery room. Dr. Hart smiled as she placed a tiny bundle in my arms. A healthy little girl. I burst into tears. Hi, sweetheart. The tiny baby wrapped her fingers around mine. At that moment, every humiliation, every sleepless night, every tear I'd cried because of Calvin, finally felt like the past. I named her Hope, because after losing everything, she had given me a future. Meanwhile, back in Carmoria, Gianna's life was falling apart. The lawsuit Calvin had filed ended badly for her. She had to publicly admit she'd lied about reconciling with him. Several luxury brands immediately canceled their partnerships. Her sponsors disappeared one after another. Then the biggest scandal surfaced. A former boyfriend released messages showing Gianna had deliberately pursued wealthy men for money and status. Worse, she had bragged about taking back Calvin simply because she couldn't stand seeing another woman married to him. Public opinion turned overnight. The woman once praised as Calvin Buxton's true love became the most mocked socialite in Carmoria. Her family business collapsed under the backlash. Friends who once surrounded her stopped answering her calls. She tried to contact Calvin dozens of times. Every number was blocked. She even waited outside Buxton Corporation for hours. When Calvin finally walked out, she rushed toward him. "Calvin, please listen to me." Security stopped her. She cried desperately. "I still love you." Calvin didn't even slow down. Without looking at her, he said one sentence. "The biggest mistake of my life wasn't loving the wrong person. It was hurting the right one." Then he got into his car and left. Gianna collapsed onto the sidewalk, realizing too late that the man who had once indulged her every whim would never look at her again. A year later, my divorce from Calvin was officially finalized. There were no arguments. No fight over property. No attempts to delay the proceedings. He signed every document immediately. Along with the papers came one final handwritten letter. It simply read, "Thank you for giving me 3 years I never deserved. I won't disturb your life again. Take good care of yourself. And our daughter, Calvin." There was no money enclosed. No gifts. No grand promises. For the first time, he understood that not everything could be bought. I folded the letter and placed it in a box labeled past. Then I closed the lid. 5 years later, Hope was starting kindergarten. She was bright, curious, and had my smile. One afternoon she looked up at me while drawing. "Mommy?" "Yes." "Do I have a daddy?" I smiled softly. "You do." "Where is he?" "He lives very far away." "Does he love me?" I thought about Calvin for a long moment. The man he had become after losing us. The charities he quietly funded. The scholarships he created in Angela Astor's mother's name. The way he never remarried. The empty nursery he never let anyone dismantle. Finally, I answered honestly. "Yes, he loves you. He just learned what love meant too late." Hope nodded as only a child could. Then she happily returned to coloring. Satisfied. Across the ocean, Calvin sat alone in his office. His assistant entered quietly. "President Buxton." The annual charity report. Calvin signed it without reading. The foundation now funded cancer treatment for families who couldn't afford it. The same kind of families Angela and her mother had once belonged to. His assistant hesitated. "Sir, we received another anonymous photo." Calvin looked up. It had become a yearly tradition. Someone always mailed a single picture. Never an address. Never a name. Just proof that Angela and Hope were healthy. This year's photo showed a little girl laughing on a beach while a woman chased her through the waves. Neither of them looked at the camera. Neither knew the picture had been taken. Calvin smiled through tears. "They're happy. That's enough." He carefully placed the photograph beside the others in a drawer. He never tried to find them again. He had made that promise. This time, he kept it. Love isn't always about ending up together. Sometimes, love is accepting that the greatest apology is letting someone go and wishing them the happiness you failed to give them. Calvin Buxton spent the rest of his life living with regret. Angela Astor spent the rest of hers living with peace. And little Hope grew up surrounded not by wealth, but by the one thing her mother had searched for all along. A home filled with unconditional